On behalf of the Ranchi Women's College Fraternity and Society for Plant Research, I would like to take this privilege to welcome one and all to this national webinar on plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19 pandemic. It's a privilege to have you here. Thank you for your overwhelming response. And now I request the convener of this webinar, Professor Icha Purak, to kindly take over and begin the program formally. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Dr. Smita Linda, for giving me an opportunity to conduct this webinar. Today, in this online gathering, a national webinar on plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19 pandemic is being organized by Department of Botany, Ranchi Women's College, an autonomous constituent unit of Ranchi University, Ranchi, in collaboration with Society for Plant Research, Vegetos. Professor S.K. Bhatnagar, the founder General Secretary of Society for Plant Research, is among us. The webinar will run in two sessions. The first session, which is going on, and the second session will start at 5:15 p.m. up to 6:15 p.m. The participants have to log in for both sessions separately. In each session, two speakers will deliver. At the end of each session, participants can ask questions and interact. This webinar will go live on YouTube also. We are trying for that. As all guests, speakers, and many participants have joined in, it is time to start now. We are privileged to have with us Professor Dr. Ramesh Kumar Pandey, Vice Chancellor Ranchi University, Ranchi, as Chief Patron of this web meeting, although he has not been able to join. Professor Dr. Manju Sinha, Principal Ranchi Women's College, Ranchi, as Patron. She has also not been able to log in till now. Myself, Professor Icha Purak, former Head Department of Botany and Journal Secretary, East for Society for Plant Research, as convener. Dr. Anita Mehta, Associate Professor Botany, Ranchi Women's College, as co-convener. Dr. Sushma Das Guru and Dr. Shalini Mehta, Assistant Professors Botany, Ranchi Women's College, as organizing secretaries, and Dr. Smita Linda, Assistant Professor Geography Department, Ranchi Women's College, who has very kindly accepted our request to take the responsibility of coordinator of this national webinar. Thanks a lot, Smita, for your kind gesture and cooperation. We are fortunate enough to have a panel of eminent speakers as Professor Dr. S.K. Bhatnagar, Founder Secretary General of Society for Plant Research and Chief Editor, Vegetos. Professor Om Prakash Rathore from PG Department of Botany, Science College, Nanded, Maharashtra. Dr. Avinash Gupta, Chief Cardiologist, Monmouth Medical Center, Southern Campus, New Jersey, and Dr. S.K. Agrawal, MS, General Surgery, Clinical Research Scientist, Ayurveda and Medicinal Plants from Amrita Family Health Center, Ranchi. In this August gathering, a host of faculty members, research scholars, and students from different states of the country have joined. Now, as Principal Madam Professor Manju Sinha has not been able to log in, on behalf of Ranchi Women's College and Society for Plant Research, I welcome distinguished guests, eminent speakers, and participants in this web meeting. Since October 2019, due to the activity of coronavirus COVID-19, which has spread as a pandemic throughout the world and has dramatically changed our lifestyle. As per the current data, on 21st June 2020, it has spread in about 213 countries. About 8,095,489 people have been infected and has resulted in death of about 4,67,354 people, and about 50% persons have been recovered. As till date, for disease caused by this virus, no defined drug or medicine or any vaccine has been designed promptly. According to top-level global health authorities, it is not certain for how much time we may have to live with COVID-19, maybe for months or years. It is advisable, let us not deny it or create panic. We will have to learn to live with it, or rather adopt it in our lifestyle as other diseases. As the disease is transmitted human to human by respiratory droplets, many countries followed lockdown, social distancing, using masks to cover nose and mouth, sanitization and frequent hand washing to prevent contact and chances of being infected. In spite of all these, the disease is spreading fastly. As we all know, the prevention is always better than cure. Attempts should be made to prevent the infection, which can be made possible by boosting our immune capacity. If we are healthy, chances of infection are less. From very ancient times, plants are being used as immunomodulators, having potentiality to prevent and also cure by virtue of having active ingredients. Keeping in mind this topic of this national webinar, plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19 pandemic appears quite relevant. Now I would like to request Dr. Anita Mehta, co-convener of this national webinar, to kindly introduce our first speaker, Professor S.K. Bhatnagar ji. Over to Dr. Anita Mehta. Anita, please continue.
Thanks, Professor Ichha Purak. Very good evening, VC sir, our chief patron, principal ma'am, patron of this web meeting, Dr. S.K. Bhatnagar sir, Dr. O.P. Rathore sir, Dr. Avinash Gupta, and Dr. S.K. Agrawal, our eminent speakers, Dr. Ichha Purak, convener of this program, Dr. Susma Daskaru, Dr. Shalini Mehta, Dr. Smita, organizers of this webinar. Myself, Dr. Anita Mehta, Associate Professor from Department of Botany, Ranchi Women's College, and co-convener of this event, welcome you all. For these 2 hours, we all are sitting comfortably at different places, but for same purpose, that is to discuss about plants as immunomodulators for COVID-19, which gives severe acute respiratory syndrome. During this session, our first eminent speaker is Professor S.K. Bhatnagar. It's my privilege to introduce you, sir. Sir, you started your professional career as botanist and biotechnologist in 1977 from Bareilly College, Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh. Professor Bhatnagar served College of Biotechnology, Meerut as Dean and Professor. Professor Bhatnagar is the founder Secretary General of internationally recognized Society for Plant Research, that is SPR, started in 1988, under the aegis of which an international journal of plant research, Vegetos, having NAS rating 6.04, is being published, and currently it is processed by the most reputed journal, Springer Nature. At present, Professor Bhatnagar is Editor-Chief of Vegetos. Professor Bhatnagar has been honored by the most prestigious Vasvik Research Award 2010 for agriculture research offered at Bhai Das Auditorium, Mumbai, and this award carries cash prize of rupees 1 lakh. Sir, under your able guidance, about 16 students have been awarded PhD degree and published more than 100 research papers in reputed peer-reviewed journals and also authored some books. Professor Bhatnagar delivered large number of invited lectures and keynote address in various national and international conferences, therefore visited France, UK, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Indonesia, and many more countries. Sir, you are elected as member of NAC, an autonomous institution of UGC, and assist various prestigious universities and colleges like Annamalai University, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Tata Memorial Center, Gujarat Ayurved University, SS Memorial College, Ranchi, etc. Currently, Professor Bhatnagar is the expert member of Project Evaluation Council of CCRAS, that is Central Council for Research in Ayurvedic Science, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. Now I invite Professor S.K. Bhatnagar for delivering his long-awaited lecture. Over to Bhatnagar, sir.
Good morning, friends. At the outset, let me thank the organizers, especially the patron, Professor Ramesh Pandey, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Ranchi University, Pro-Vice Chancellor Professor Kamini Kumar, Professor Ichha Purak, the convener of this webinar, and our team for providing me an opportunity to interact with a young scientist during this webinar. In fact, for last 3-4 months, entire world is suffering from a virus which is called as COVID-19 pandemic, and this pandemic is because of a non-living component, you can say, which is a virus, and these viruses, they are not living in themselves, but they have a protein coat around them, and with the help of this protein coat, they either adhere to the human cells or to the animal cells, or they enter into the human body. While entering into the human body through protein coat, they send their nucleic acid into the cell, and there it multiplies, and this is particularly the cause of disease to a human being. So this COVID pandemic, it is quite fatal, as you can see with the help of data provided on social media almost every day. But as far as India is concerned, India is very rich in natural resources, and these natural resources are helping the human beings in making their immunity system, their immune system quite strong. As long as we are avoiding the immune system, or as long as we are not keeping our immune system strong, we are always becoming the victim of any type of virus, not only COVID, but any type of virus can attack on us. Because unless and until we are strong from inside, because of our strong immune system, we cannot keep ourselves safe from any type of pathogen whatsoever. Now you can see that there are immunomodulators, and immunomodulators, they can easily be classified into immunostimulant and immunosuppressant. There are certain plant products which help in increasing the immune system. As you can see that right from the birth onward, the first milk by mother is helping a child in developing its immune system quite strong. because the human beings, they receive colostrum, or they receive antibodies from mother, and these antibodies, they help in increasing the immune system of an individual. But as soon as we grow, there are so many plant products which help us in increasing our immune system or in activating the immune system, so that we can become stronger and stronger against any type of disease. There are certain other chemicals which are called as immunosuppressant. In fact, they suppress our immune system, and because of the suppression of immune system, we become a prey to different types of pathogens, viruses, or bacteria. We are not going in details of it, but there are specific and non-specific immunostimulant, and likewise there are specific and non-specific immunosuppressant. Particularly when a person fell ill and they are provided different types of synthetic medicines, then these medicines, they reduce the immune system of an individual by large. Now, if we look at the definition of immune system, we will find that immunity system protect the body against disease. It detects the germs such as viruses and parasites. But there are certain people who become deficient in their immune system, and this immunodeficiency is because of many reasons. It may be because of the heredity or genetical reason. Means if the parents, they are having weaker immune system, then ultimately the offsprings will also be weak in their immune system, and it is called as inherited immunodeficiency. Then environmental factors, the climatic condition, the environment in which we survive, the environment in which we live, that is also affecting us a lot, and it produces a negative effect on our immune system, and therefore immunodeficiency is caused. Then the primary cause of immunodeficiency, when a baby has symptoms since birth which become more evident in adult or young stage. Secondary immunodeficiency happens by using medicines. If a person suffers from different types of diseases like diabetes or HIV, and during cancer they are provided chemotherapy or radiotherapy, they receive several burns, because of which he is giving medicines, allopathic medicines or synthetic drugs, then ultimately they cause immunodeficiency, which comes under the category of secondary immunodeficiency. In human beings, it may be genetic disease, HIV, AIDS related illness, or the use of immunosuppressive drug during ailment. Now, there are different systems of disease cure in our society. One important source of treatment is allopathic system of treatment. This medication is based on pure chemical, which include antibiotics, vitamin, mineral combinations, antihistaminic, antipyretic, anticarcinogenic, and antispasmodic group. In fact, these medicines or these type of medications, they give a quick relief to a patient. And the quick relief is because they suppress the disease, and because of the suppression of disease, we find that we are cured or we are having no ailment at all. But what happens when these biochemicals are provided, or when these chemicals are provided, drugs are provided, then they modify or alter our biochemical system or biological system at large. The renal system or digestive tract problems exist due to the antibiotics or different types of anti-inflammatory drugs. Then another system we have are alternative therapies. Keeping in mind the enormous problems of side effect and after effect, the people, they are inclined towards the tribal medications. When we use the word tribal medication, it means the tribes which are scattered here and there throughout the world. These tribes, they use the local medicines in the form of plant or the secondary metabolites which are synthesized by the plant, and they use them for the treatment of ailments because they are having allopathic system beyond their reach. Now these tribal medications, they also gave rise to Ayurvedic system of therapy, homeopathic system and Unani system of medicines, which has got no or least toxic effects, and side effects are almost negligible, and they are considered as human safe. Now we have the Indian system of medicine. You can see that Ayurveda, Ayur means literally, it means life, and Veda means the knowledge. So Ayurveda is an ancient system of medicine in India, and it originated 10,000 to 500 BC, and most of the people, they had been using Ayurvedic system of medicine throughout the country. The Ayurvedic system is based on Panchbhutas, means we are having 5 elements in our body, as we call that Panch Tattva, means our body is made up of 5 elements. So it is based on 5 bhutas. The healthy individuals, all the various aspects like physical body and its mental and spiritual counterpart must be in equilibrium state. Means we can be called as healthy if we are having our physical body, our mental health and spiritual health in total equilibrium. And if any of these are lost, or if any of these become deficient, then ultimately there is a loss of equilibrium and a person fell ill. Then we have the indigenous knowledge. By the word indigenous knowledge, we mean that the plants which we are having in our as a natural resource, these plants, they are largely used by human beings, by animals, and in agriculture also as biofertilizer and for seed treatment or biopesticide. One should have a deep knowledge of these plants, because these plants, they develop secondary metabolites, and these secondary metabolites, they are of paramount importance because they help or assist in increasing our immune system, and particularly different types of secondary metabolites, they help in the curing or in curing our diseased components. Now, indigenous knowledge second. With the growing demand of herbal pharmaceutical industries in India, the medical scientists or medicinal scientists, they started preparing plant steroids, or they started extracting steroids from plants, phytochemicals, to prepare active formulation. You can see there are several Ayurvedic firms which are producing different types of medicines by using the plant products like quinine, artemisinin, bicoside, Pelacid, Lawson, Taxol, Vincristine and Vinblastine, and so on and so forth. Our heavenly natural resources, they are also prevalent because we have a complete biodiversity in all sphere of life. But among these biodiversity, we have certain very important medicinal plants which are normally consumed by the human beings and animals to keep themselves healthy. Now, just for instance, I am naming few. Ashwagandha, which is called as Withania somnifera. Tulsi, which we usually worship, is called Ocimum sanctum. Giloy, which we call as Tinospora cordifolia. Now, in Hindu mythology, we are in practice of worshipping the plants by and large, not because they are having some religious value, but because these plants, they produce certain products, certain secondary metabolites, which are used by the human beings for resuming their health and for keeping them healthy. One of them is Tulsi, like Ficus religiosa, Ficus bengalensis, Giloy, and so many other drugs. Now here you can see different types of products from Tinospora cordifolia or Giloy. Now these are few plants which help in enhancing our immune system. It is Sambucus nigra, which is called as elder. You can see that it has got various components which help in increasing our immune system, and particularly in recent time it has been found to contain lignans, triterpenes and caffeic acid, which has been tested on large number of viruses including coronavirus. Second one is Bupleurum falciparum, and it is also having very great amount of triterpene glucoside, which is also known as psychosaponin. It has vitamin A, B2, C and D, which are antiviral and can help in fighting against coronavirus. Now another plant you can see, it is called as fish mint, and this fish mint is very interesting because during the recent COVID-19 attack in China, this particular medicine, because the drugs were not available and there was no vaccine available, therefore in China this particular plant fish mint was used to fight against coronavirus by increasing the immune system of an individual, because it worked magically against lung abscesses and cough and shortness of breath. Therefore it was very effective in coronavirus or in COVID-19. Then astragalus, you can see, it belongs to family Leguminosae. It has long been used as a lung tonic. It has antiviral effect and it has the properties of immunomodulator. Therefore this plant is also very useful. Now here I would like to discuss in brief the laetrile or amygdalin, which is also called as vitamin B17. It was discovered by E.T. Krebs, and this laetrile was isolated from the seeds of Prunus persica, Prunus americana or apricot. In 1950 he observed that laetrile is fatal to cancer cell, but it is very useful to the normal body cell, or you can say that it is harmless to the normal body cell, and therefore it was used for the treatment of cancer. Now this is the metabolism of laetrile in curing cancer. We shall not go in detail of it because it is a work which was carried out by one of my friend, Dr. S.K. Prabhuji, and he explained the entire mechanism of action of laetrile. Now there is a village in Himachal where laetrile is being taken up. The apricot seeds are stored and these seeds are dried and their powder is mixed with wheat flour, and they consume this wheat flour, and none of the member and that particular village is suffering from cancer. So this is the mechanism of action. Now the phenolic compound that include the derivative of benzoic acid. This laetrile ultimately gets converted into benzoic acid, and this benzoic acid retard cancer cell growth by inhibiting histone deacetylase or HDAC, which is a very important immunomodulator for an individual. Now this is all for today. I once again thank the audience and the organizers for giving me an opportunity to interact, and particularly the plant immunomodulators. They are very important in order to fight against COVID-19, and the most important thing is to keep our spiritually high, to keep ourselves physically fit, and the mental strength should also be at the top. Therefore, by developing an equilibrium of all these three things, these type of viruses can never harm us, and we should also try to keep our immune system very strong so that we should never become a prey to any type of virus or bacteria. I thank you all very much for the patient hearing.
Thanks for delivering a wonderful lecture, sir. Questionnaire session will be carried out in the end of this session, sir. Now I request Professor Ichha Purak to kindly introduce our second eminent speaker, Professor O.P. Rathore. Over to Dr. Purak.
Thanks Dr. Anita Mehta for providing me the opportunity to introduce Dr. Om Prakash Rathore ji in the first session of this national webinar on plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19, organized by Department of Botany, Ranchi Women's College in collaboration with Society for Plant Research, Vegetas, to the participants. Professor Rathore is MSc PhD in botany and has obtained additional diploma in genetics from IIT Kharagpur. He worked in PG Department of Botany, Science College Nanded since 1972 to 2008 and retired as principal in 2008. Under his guidance, 13 students obtained PhD in botany, of which 5 worked on medicinal plants, 4 worked on cynogenic plants, and others on different aspects of plant science. He has to his credit 86 research papers published in various national and international journals. He has participated in more than 100 conferences, seminars as participant, speaker or chairman of session. His field of research are ethnomedicinal plants and basic plant taxonomy. He has to his credit 3 books published, which are Cynogenic Plants of India, Traditional Medicinal Plants Used in Pyrexia or Fever, Traditional Medicinal Plants for Bacterial and Viral Diseases. Now, I would like to request Dr. Om Prakash Rathore ji to come forward, please, and deliver his lecture in this national webinar.
At the outset, I would like to say that I am very much thankful to the organizers of this seminar who organized a seminar on the current topic of COVID-19. Friends, I would like to say 2 things. Number 1 is that I'm a student of botany and I'll be talking of botany only. Secondly, the time limitation is there, that is about 20 minutes. My previous speaker, Professor Bhatnagar, has already explained you what is the immunomodulation. He has shown you the various types of immunomodulation procedures. Now, I would like to say that COVID-19 is a virus attacking the respiratory system of human being, and since the last 6 months, it has created a havoc in the world. This is one of the great pandemics of the century. Over 1 million people throughout the world died because of this virus. It has also done a great damage to our lives as well as the economy of our country and the world. So far, no perfect drug or medicine controlling this virus has been discovered by any of the various systems of medical field across the world. Our human civilization has encountered several such attacks of microbes, and human race had successfully defended them or defeated them in the past by using our experience gathered through knowledge of past and the efforts of present scientific workers and researchers. We hope that human race will not be defeated in this battle of man versus corona. As referring to the position of COVID-19, today it is dominating basically because it is having a genetic capacity of quick transmission or spreading. The virulence or killing capacity of this virus varies, or it is different in different countries. India is a very thickly populated country, and so the transmission is still going on due to unavoidable physical contacts. But the death rate is comparatively less to the world, and maybe it is due to the genetically inbuilt immunity of Indians. It can also be due to the various types of plants utilized by Indians in their diet or consumed consumed as medicine in their daily routine. Let us have a brief survey of the plants which are traditionally used by tribals and also mentioned in Ayurveda, and now they are designated scientifically as immunomodulators. Professor Bhatnagar has already tried to show several such plants, but I am interested in showing you some common plants which are used by Indian people to boost their immunity. What is an immunomodulator? Let us define what is an immunomodulator. The word has been originated from immunity. Immunity is the basic adaptive mechanism by which the humans can resist the bacterial or viral attacks. This attack leads to the contagious diseases, but human cells also have an autoimmune system whereby immunity is suppressed and certain non-contagious diseases like arthritis or joint pain, etc. they arise. Immunomodulator is a substance which may be chemical or an extract of plant or a mixture of many plant extracts which can increase or suppress immunity in humans. It can also boost or it can suppress. It works in both ways. So I already told you that immunomodulators can be of two types. That is immunoboosters, stimulating the immunity of humans, immunosuppressors, suppressing the autoimmunity of humans. And it includes plant extracts by experience which are useful today also in the present crisis of coronavirus. So, I am talking of plant and plant extracts, not about the chemicals. And a brief survey of medicinal plants from the from the point of view as a student of plant science I am presenting here. Please remember that I am not a phytochemist or pharmacologist to discuss the various other aspects. This observation is based on the ethnobotanical survey of literature from Ayurveda and experience of people through ages and along with consultation of pharmacologists. All the listed plants are immunomodulators and are being used in India and some other countries since ages. I will be mostly talking about immunoboosters only. I have not considered the immunosuppressor plants in this talk. These medicinal plants have multiple uses in various ailments of man, but they also possess immunomodulating capacity. This has been now earmarked through modern scientific methodology. There are a number of papers have been published on these plants and investigations, phytochemical investigations, and how they are working and all that. There are a number of papers have been already in literature. This list provides the botanical name, family, local name, vernacular name, etc. So let us start. This is a list of some medicinal plants which are immunomodulators, particularly they are immunoboosters. And they are well known from a long time and they are extensively used in India and also abroad by people. So let us start from first most important immunomodulator plant, that is Aola gooseberry, or that is Phyllanthus imblica. It belongs to family Phyllanthus. Now, the Phyllanthus imblica or Aola is a very good immunobooster because it contains several chemicals along with vitamin C, which is most important in immunoboosting. The next plant is Tulsi or Holy Basil. Now the name has been changed from Osimum centum to Osimum tenuifolium, and family is Lamiaceae. Now Tulsi since thousands of years has been used by the Indian people for their various ailments, and they have been saved from various bacterial and viral attacks by this tulsi extract. And not only that, that has also important role in boosting the immunity. So now number of Ayurvedic preparations, they almost all of them, which are immunoboosters, they contain tulsi. The next is the haldi or turmeric. Turmeric is known as Curcuma longa, family Zingirberaceae. Friends, turmeric or Curcuma longa, it contains what is known as curcumin, and curcumin is a proved immunobooster substance. Now that has been established that consumption of turmeric or use of turmeric in the daily routine as well as a medicine definitely is boosting your immunity. The fourth important immunobooster plant is, as you know, is ginger. Zingiber officinalis, family Zingirberaceae. Now, ginger is known throughout the world. It is used against various ailments, particularly cold and cough, and various viral fever and other things. And this also contains number of phytochemicals which are acting as immunoboosters. These are the photographs of these plants, that is Phyllanthus imblica, Artemum tenuifolium, Gingiber officinalis, and Curcuma longa. Other prime immunoboosters which are known, that is Amrit whale or Amrita, that is good whale, or Tinospora cordifolia, which is family Menispermaceae. Now friends, this Tinospora cordifolia is used in multiple diseases. It has the part which is used is a stem, and stem is dried and the powder is made. And now almost all the immunobooster or the substances they are extract which are being utilized against the viral diseases, the Tinospora cordifolia is the main constituent. The another important immunobooster is ashwagandha, that is also known as Indian ginseng. This is Vidania somnifera of Solanaceae. The Vidania somnifera roots are being utilized for the preparation of extracts and the medicines as immunoboosters. Vidania somnifera is also acting in the autoimmune diseases. That is useful also to the patients of the arthritis, etc. The next is pimpri or long pepper. That is Piper longum. You know the black pepper also, it is an immunobooster. And this Piper longum is also an immunobooster. And it is also used in preparation of Ayurvedic preparations and also used by people directly as a protection against virus. The another important is session or drumsticks, what you call, that is Moringa pterygospherma, family Moringaceae. This plant, the whole plant is a useful plant in using in various ailments. The leaves, the fruit, the bark of the stem, particularly for preparation of immunobooster substances, fruits are being utilized, and even eating the leaves or eating the vegetable out of the leaves, that will be also serving as an immunobooster. Next, these are the photographs of these plants: Tinospora cordifolia, Vidania somnifera, Piper longum, and Moringa pterygiosperma. The other prime immunoboosters are again from your kitchen. It is lasun, garlic, Allium sativum, family Liliaceae. Now garlic works as antibacterial, antiviral, as well as it is an immunobooster. The active principle are many, but main active principle is allicin. And lime or lemon are all members of family Rutaceae, which are belonging to the genera Citrus aurantifolia, and your orange and Mozambique, all. They are good source of vitamin C. So vitamin C is known substance which helps you in boosting your immunity. Then Korphad, or what you call Ghat Kumari or aloe vera. Aloe vera is the most common plant, and which has been now, the family has been changed from Liliaceae to Asphodelaceae. Now this plant, again it has got multiple uses, and it is used in various Ayurvedic preparations. Then Kalameg or Bhunimbu, or that is known as Chirata, that is the king of bitter, the most bitter substance present in it. It is Andrographis paniculata acanthes, which contains andrographilides, which are very much bitter substances. And it helps you in curing your all types of fever and pyrexia, what you call it. And that also helps boosting your immunity. These are the photographs, that is Allium sativum, aloe vera, that is Citrus aurantifolia, and Andrographis paniculata. So another important immunobooster plants which is well known to you, that is your neem or margosa, that is Rosaricta indica, family Ameliaceae. Friends, again, this plant is a boon to humanity, because every part of this plant is used in some or other ailments, curing certain ailments, starting from skin diseases to your digestive system to killing the viruses and bacteria, and also boosting your immunity. Neem is a very important plant which the Indian people use since thousands of years. The another is Shatavari, that is Asparagus racemosas, that is Liliaceae family. It's a good source of carbohydrates, but simultaneously it contains certain chemicals which can boost your immunity to fight against the viral diseases. The Parijat or Harsingar is Nyctanthus arbor tristis, is a family Oleaceae. Friends, you might not be knowing that leaves of these plants are highly medicinal, and they are used, they can be also used for immunoboosting. Then Arjun or Terminalia arjuna is the very important plant which is basically related to the heart problems, but Arjuna is also having certain alkaloids, it belongs to family Comaridaceae, and it is also used in certain preparations of Ayurveda and Ayurvedic kadhas and all that as an immunobooster. These are the photographs of Azadiracta indica, Asparagus racemosas, Nyctanthus arbor tristis, and Terminalia arjuna. Next, please. Another important plant is Shaitut, white mulberry, that is Morasalva, Moraceae. You're surprised to know that Khair or Katha, what is Katha plant, that is Catechu, Acacia catechu, that is from the bark of the plant we obtain what is known as Katha, which we use in pan. That is Mimosis family belongs. Now this this plant, the bark which is made wind powder, that is also katta, that is a very, very good immunobooster. So our Indian people utilize it since thousands of years. And Jestamad is liquorized, that is Glycerella glabra family fabaceae, which is very commonly used in preparations of jwar or pyrexia, so that it is also works as immunobooster. Isabgol or the Plantago asiatica, what you call. This is, you think that it is only fibers for digestion. It is not true. That also the chemicals present in it also helps in boosting your immunity. Then the Calicutki or Picoriza curro, family Plantagenaceae, is again a very good immunity. Ginseng. Ginseng is a Chinese plant, that is Panax ginseng. Now there are a number of tablets available in the market, known as ginseng tablet, Araliaceae family. And Chinese, as my previous speaker has also shown that there are certain Chinese preparations. In China also they have made preparations against COVID, and Chinese medicine system also is having very good set of antiviral drugs, as well as they produce immunoboosters. Next, please. These are the photographs of this plant, Morus alba, Acacia cataceae, and Glycerella glabra, and this is Plantago asiatica. Then Picoriza curro, and this is Panax ginseng. Yes. So now I have talked about I have shown you the photographs, and you are knowing most of them plants. Now there are many more plants which can work as immunomodulators, and the immunomodulation, particularly in the situation of COVID-19, is to find out. Now our aim is again to go for a research to find out more plants which are more effective, and make some polyherbal preparations. Now, in the market at present, there are a number of preparations they are coming up as preparations against COVID-19. Friends, it is not exactly against COVID-19, it is against certain viral diseases. We have a common viral flu, that is, COVID-19 is sort of common viral flu only, but the transmission capacity is more, and also it can cause death in the persons, particularly who are old age or who are suffering from various other ailments like diabetes and blood pressure, etc. Now, this list will be definitely, that will be useful to what is known as bioprospecting. Now, preparation of a drug or a mixture of plants, it depends upon the phytochemical investigation. First of all, ethnomedicinal investigation, that is knowing the uses, since used by tribal peoples, which is from thousands of years they are using the things. Then after collecting the data, we are going to finding out its botanical name and correct botanical. Now this is very important part of the preparation of drug. That is, you must know the correct name, and I'm basically a taxonomist who is working on the nomenclature and identification of the plant. So, ethnomedicinal study, then the identification of the plant, then the phytochemical investigation, then pharmacological investigation, and then trials on these are the various steps of preparation of a drug, and we have to adopt it. This list will be useful from this point of view. Of course, prevention is the better. You know that that is transmission can be only stopped by social distancing and disinfecting with the use of sanitizers and taking care not to mix up with the people. That is important. A number of polyherbal preparations are from Ayush, from the Patanjali. They are coming up as immunomodulators. And as we know that immunomodulation can be done in your kitchen, from your kitchen substances also, that is ginger, curcuma, ola, lemon, etc. You can prepare even simple kadas out of that, and you can boost your immunity and you can protect yourself from the virus. A search for new medicinal plants is of course desirable, and that is the need of our botanists can do that. These preparations are basically important is that they will be more cheaper, comparatively more cheaper than other things. This is a conclusion, and this is my botanical observation about the immunoboosters, and the commercial herbal preparations are going on, and we think that definitely, though we have to live with this virus COVID for a longer time, but we will be defeating it by use of our knowledge of our ancient people and use of the plants. Thank you very much for a patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Most Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ranchi University, our Chief Patron, Professor Ramesh Kumar Pandey, respected Principal, Ranchi Women's College, Professor Manju Sinha, our Patron, our Honorable Eminent Speakers, Professor S.K. Bhatnagar, Professor O.P. Rathore, Dr. Avinash Gupta, and Dr. S.K. Agrawal, respected Convener, Professor Ichha Purak, our organizers, Dr. Susma Dasguru, Dr. Shalini Mehta, and Dr. Smita Linda. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this webinar such a resounding success. First of all, I would like to propose hearty vote of thanks to our Chief Patron, Professor Ramesh Kumar Pandey, for his acceptance as Chief Patron for this webinar. But due to some unavoidable circumstances, he could not grace this occasion. We thank you once again, sir. On behalf of all, I would like to express our profound gratitude to our Principal Madam, Ranchi Women's College, for her presence in this webinar. Thank you, Madam, for your thought-provoking address. On behalf of all, I would like to thank our eminent and distinguished speakers, Professor S.K. Bhatnagar, Professor O.P. Rathore, Dr. Avinash Gupta, and Dr. S.K. Agrawal for accepting their participation as eminent speakers. Now, on behalf of all, I would like to thank Professor Ichha Purak, convener of this webinar, for working with us despite her number of busy schedules like online classes, etc. Thank you, Professor Ichha Purak, for always being with us. You were concerned about each and every steps of this web meeting when we were planning. Without you, this event has never been conducted. On behalf of all, I must thank Dr. Smita Linda, coordinator of this event, who is so competent in organizing webinars that during this lockdown period, she managed to carry on 7 to 8 webinars as a coordinator. We, the organizers, are grateful to you, Smita. Thanks, Smita. Hope we will work together with same team spirit in near future. we would like to extend my vote of thanks to Dr. Susma Dasguru and Dr. Shalini Mehta for their continuous support. Finally, I would like to express my vote of thanks to participants who were continuously posting their feedback and questions on the chat box. Thanks participants for joining this webinar. Now I have to sum up the gist of lectures delivered by our first two distinguished speakers. It's my pleasure and privilege, Dr. Ichha Purak. Today in this session, our first eminent speaker, Professor S.K. Bhatnagar, discussed about two types of immunomodulators. Those are as immunostimulants, which can be used in the treatment of cancer and other infection, whereas immunosuppressants can be used for the treatment of autoimmune disorders. Professor Bhatnagar told that physically, mentally and spiritually fit bodies are less prone to diseases and infections. Sir, you told that Ayurvedic, homeopathic and Unani system of medicine are plant-based, so give less side effects in comparison to allopathic system. So these medicinal plant which you have just mentioned, sir, Tinospora, Basil, Ashwagandha, Prunus, Elder, Astragalus are our heavenly natural resources, just like sunlight and water, and we must use them and conserve them. Sir, it's amazing to know that latrial or amygdalin or vitamin B17, which comes from apricot, that is Prunus americana L, is fatal to cancer cells but not to normal cells. Illustration for mechanism of action of latrial was wonderful, sir. On behalf of organizers, an entire Ranchi Women's College and participants, I thank you, sir, for delivering a wonderful lecture, and we hope another one in near future. We wish you sound health and good luck, sir. Our second eminent speaker was Professor O.P. Rathore. Professor Rathore told about the genetically inbuilt immunity of Indians because of the use of many plants in our daily diet or consumption of plants as medicine in the daily routine. Maybe, sir, this is the main reason of less mortality rate in India during this pandemic. We all will be well benefited by the list of medicinal plant which you have just given. You have mentioned Indian gooseberries, tulsi, turmeric, adrak, tinospora, pipli, garlic, aloe vera, lemon and many more medicinal plants as our heavenly natural resource to prevent current pandemic. Sir, you also discussed about the use of polyherbal preparation to prevent number of viral diseases. Thanks, Professor Rathore, for delivering a wonderful lecture, and we hope for next in future. We wish you sound health and good luck, sir. Now I would request Professor Ichha Purak to carry on this web meeting. Over to Professor Purak.
In second session of National Webinar on Plants as Immunomodulators in COVID-19, which is being organized by Department of Botany, Ranchi Women's College in collaboration with Society for Plant Research, Vegetos, myself, Professor Ichha Purak, the convener, feel privileged to introduce our third speaker, Dr. Avinash Gupta, to the participants. Dr. Avinash Gupta is currently practicing cardiology in Lakewood, New Jersey. He is Chief of Cardiology at Monmouth Medical Center, South Campus. Basically, he is from Ranchi, India. He did his MBBS, DTMH and MD in RMCH Ranchi. It is a matter of pride for us. He then moved to United States in 1986 to further pursue his medical career. He is board certified in cardiology, nuclear cardiology and clinical lipidology. He is a member of American College of Cardiology, National Lipid Association and Medical Society of New Jersey. He is president of Monmouth Ocean Country Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, MOCAAPI, and president of Bihar Jharkhand Association of North America, that is BAZANA. He is actively involved in many charitable works both in USA as well as in India. He served as reception chair in 2019 for the Federation of Indian Association. He also stays associated with his alma mater both in USA as well as in Ranchi. It is his passion to help others and mentor the next generation. I would like to welcome and invite Dr. Avinash Gupta to come forward and deliver his lecture in this webinar.
Good evening. I am Dr. Avinash Gupta, Chief of Cardiology at Monmouth Medical Center, Southern Campus in New Jersey, USA. I am practicing medicine and cardiology in United States of America for last 34 years, and I have been in the middle of this COVID-19 epidemic. It is an honor and privilege to be invited to a webinar where Chief Patron Professor Ramesh Kumar Pandey, Vice Chancellor of Ranchi University, of which I was a student in 1970s, and Patron Professor Manju Sinha, Principal, Ranchi Women's College. Many thanks to convener Professor Ichha Purak and all the organizers. Today's topic is plants as immunomodulators. And as we all know, it's a new virus. It's an animal virus which usually does not affect humans, but this virus made the jump. And since it is a new virus, nobody is immune to it, and everybody is susceptible. That's why it's spreading so fast. And since we don't have a cure yet and no vaccines yet, it makes sense to think about how we can prevent it and how we can use plants as immunomodulation, because it has everything to do with our body's immunity. Some people get only mild symptoms and get away with it, and some people could die from it. They get very sick, they need ICU, they need ventilator. So let's talk about the coronavirus. They are important human and animal pathogens. At the end of 2019, a novel coronavirus was identified as the cause of a cluster of pneumonia cases in Wuhan, a city in the Hubei province of China. It rapidly spread, resulting in an epidemic throughout China, followed by an increasing number of cases in other countries throughout the world. Understanding of COVID-19 is still evolving. The virology says that it's a full genome sequencing and phylogenetic analysis indicates that the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 is a beta coronavirus in the same subgenus as the severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS virus, as well as several bat coronaviruses, but in a different clade. The structure of the receptor binding gene region is very similar to that of the SARS coronavirus, and the virus that has been shown to use the same receptor, the angiotensin converting enzyme 2 or ACE2 for cell entry. So if you can find a some mechanism to block that receptor through which the virus enters the cell, we may be successful in preventing it. And also we will have to look for drugs which can prevent the replication of virus once it enters the body, whether it is allopathic or Ayurvedic, or we can find it in the plants. It will be helping the patient. The closest RNA sequence, similarly, the closest RNA sequence similarity is to two bat coronaviruses, and it appears likely that bats are the primary source. Whether COVID-19 virus is transmitted directly from bats or through some other mechanism, example through an intermediate host, is unknown. So globally, more than 8 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 have been reported. And cases have been reported in all continents except for Antarctica. And the cumulative incidence depends on a number of factors, including population density and demographics, extent of testing and reporting, and timing of mitigation strategies such as lockdown. In the United States, outbreaks in long-term facilities and homeless shelters have emphasized the risk of exposure and infection in congregate settings. A prime example is this largest slum in the world, Dharavi. And actually, if you look at the whole thing, India has done much better in preventing the spread than America. Our lockdown was done on time. Unfortunately, the migrant laborers had to go to their homes, and they brought the coronavirus to their villages. But in Dharavi, they did similar to what they did in China. In China, they had fever clinics. So they were testing everybody's fever when they were in the bus stand or shopping mall, and anybody with fever was sent to the fever clinic, not to the hospital, not to the doctor's offices. And when they went to the fever clinic, they had a rapid COVID test, and they were made to wait there till the result was available. Once the result is negative, they went home to self-quarantine. And if it is positive, they were not sent to the hospital again. They were sent to the stadiums or the hotels where they were quarantined for 14 days and treated there. In Dharavi also, they did the same thing. They knocked on the doors of everybody. They checked their temperature, they checked their oxygen saturation, and they were sent to the schools or sports complexes. Understanding of transmission, at the beginning of outbreak, an initial association with a seafood market that sold live animals where most patients had worked or visited was made. But however, as the outbreak progressed, person-to-person spread became the main mode of transmission. Current outbreak in Beijing last week also is traced to a wet market. And they have taken steps in sealing off the area, and they have cancelled flights, and they are preventing people from leaving Beijing. I wish the same was done for Wuhan. Route of person-to-person transmission is in severe acute respiratory distress syndrome is thought to occur through close range contact, mainly via respiratory droplets. So there are two things. One is a droplet and the other is aerosol. So the droplets virus released in the respiratory secretions when a person with infection coughs, sneezes, or talks can infect another person if it makes direct contact with the mucous membranes, which is either the eyes or the nose or the mouth. Infection can also occur if a person touches an infected surface and then touches his eyes, nose, or mouth. Droplets typically do not travel more than 6 feet about 2 meters. So that's where the social distancing comes in, where you have to stay 6 feet away from anybody who is suspected to have COVID. And this day and time, we have to assume that everybody has COVID because 80% of cases are asymptomatic. So you have to be careful. And if the younger people think that, it's only going to affect elderly and people with comorbidities, then if you are going out, if you are getting COVID, then you are going to bring it home and infect your parents and grandparents. Whether SARS virus can be, whether COVID virus can be transmitted through the airborne route, through particles smaller than droplets that remain in the air over time and distance under natural conditions, has been a controversial issue. The viral shedding and period of infectivity, it appears that SARS-CoV-2 can be transmitted prior to the development of symptoms and throughout the course of illness, particularly early in the course. Detection of viral RNA does not necessarily indicate the presence of infectious virus. Thus, prolonged viral RNA detection following the resolution of illness does not necessarily indicate infectiousness. So if a person gets a test positive for COVID and then he is treated, he gets better, he is asymptomatic, but he is still, his test is positive, does not mean he is infective because it could be a dead virus he may be harboring. Usually they are infectious for first 8 days of illness, but not after that. Transmission, as I said, has been documented from asymptomatic individuals also. The risk of transmission from an individual with COVID varies by the type and duration of exposure, use of preventive measures, and likely individual factors. Example, the amount of virus in respiratory secretions. Most secondary infections have been described among household contacts, in congregate or healthcare settings when personal protective equipment was not used, including hospitals, long-term care facilities, and in closed settings such as cruise ships. However, reported clusters of cases after social or work gatherings such as wedding, funeral, also highlight the risk of transmission through close non-household contact. Contact tracing in the early stages of epidemics at various locations suggested that most secondary infections were among household contacts with a secondary attack rate of up to 15%. Clusters of cases have also been reported following family, work, or social gatherings where close personal contact can occur. And environmental contamination can happen too. Virus present on contaminated surfaces can be another source of infection if susceptible individuals touch these surfaces and then transfer infection virus to mucous membranes in the mouth, eyes, or nose. Such as if you touch the handles, light switches, bed and handrails, interior doors, windows, toilet bowls, sink basin, you can infect yourself. And it can persist on surfaces for up to 6 to 9 days. Less on the paper and cardboard. That's why when we get the mail, we leave it outside in the garage for a day. Any mails which are delivered, we disinfect it with alcohol wipes. And in plastic, it can stay longer for about a week, so we leave it outside. Of course, frequent hand washing is very important. We must have heard that you have to wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. But if you are out and if you don't have facility to wash your hands, then hand sanitizer with more than 65% of alcohol is good enough. So somebody who gets COVID, they develop antibodies to the virus. And how long this antibody will be protective, we don't know yet, because it's only like we are dealing it with for last 3 to 6 months. Because there is no cure and no treatment and no vaccine, the primary goal is to prevent it. So I always say that, you build up your immunity when you are in lockdown. Eat well, sleep well, do exercise, yoga, meditation, pranayam helps. Pranayam actually expands your lungs, and this virus mainly affects the lungs. So that's a very effective way of preventing this disease and building up your immunity. And all the things which have been recommended by Ayush Ministry of Government of India, they should be done, because it won't cure COVID, but it will actually improve your health, and it can prevent COVID and give your body more ammunition to fight it. So again, if diligent hand washing, use of hand sanitizer, covering the cough or sneezes with the elbow, don't touch your eyes, nose and mouth, clean and disinfect the objects and surfaces that are frequently touched. These things cannot be overemphasized. Of course, the people who are elderly and they have multiple comorbidities like cardiovascular disease, renal disease, diabetes, hypertension, lung disease, they have to be extra careful. So if the question is, if you do get it, what do you do? So it's not a life, death sentence, because 81% of cases will be mild, and they will have no or mild pneumonia. And then 14% will get a severe short of breath, low oxygen, and they will need hospitalization. But only 5% will get critical, requiring ICU with respiratory failure, shock, and multi-organ dysfunction. And case fatality rate could be anywhere from 2 to 7%. Like in Italy, it was 7.2%. In South Korea, it was only 0.9%. So it also depends on advanced age, underlying medical condition, which I mentioned. So when you get it, you have to know when to go for testing and when to go to the hospital. So when you start to get sick, consider that as day one. And in day 1 or 2, you will feel fatigue, loss of appetite, loss of sense of smell, and loss of sense of taste. And on day 3, you can get fever, cough, itchy throat. Day 4, you'll get headache on and off. Day 5, you'll have gastrointestinal symptoms, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, headache, and fever. On day 6 and 7, more body pain, less headache, diarrhea, and or upset stomach. On day 8 or 9, either you are getting better or worse. Worse if you have fever, cough, and shortness of breath. The most common reason for going to the hospital is shortness of breath. And once you are short of breath, don't delay it, because people come to the hospital short of breath in the morning and by afternoon they are on ventilator. Day 8 to 13, there is increased risk of blood clots. So that time they should be ambulating. And it is an average of 8 to 9 days to development of shortness of breath to the onset of pneumonia, pneumonitis. It is not like influenza, which has a classically sudden onset. Fever can last up to 12 days, and weakness will take up to 3 weeks. Appetite usually comes back in 2 weeks. So keep a thermometer at home, check your temperature. If you can get a pulse oximeter, you can check your oxygen saturation, and call your doctor if you have any symptom. The complications of COVID could be acute respiratory distress syndrome. It can affect the heart with arrhythmias, acute cardiac injury and shock. It can cause pulmonary embolism or acute stroke because of the blood clots. So basically people thought that it's a respiratory virus, it will cause pneumonia, but it's not or acute respiratory distress syndrome, but it's neither. It is blood clots in the alveoli, in the blood capillaries of the lung, and it hampers the oxygen exchange. So basically, why does it happen? It's a it's interesting that some people are getting away with it and have only mild symptoms, like 81%. But why do some people get sick? They go on ventilator and eventually die. And I have to say that about 80 to 90% patients who will go on ventilator will die. So this also has to do with immunity. So I will end my talk with this last thing, which is called cytokine storm. So our own immune system is to blame for the intense illness some people are experiencing. The immune system is there to help us fight infection, and usually it does. But sometimes it goes rogue, wreaking more havoc than the disease itself. It's called cytokine storm. So what happens is, imagine that you put your foot on the accelerator and then it gets glued to it. You can't get your foot off the gas to slow down your car. So essentially these storms can be more deadly than the original virus the body is fighting, and that causes multi-organ failure. So most of the COVID-19 patients experiencing cytokine storms are presenting with fevers and shortness of breath. Then having so much difficulty breathing, they eventually require ventilation. And this typically occurs about 6 to 7 days after the onset of illness. So that's why it's important to know the timeline. As far as treatment is concerned, there are several interventions. For mild patients, we use different medication. For moderate patients, we need different medications. And for severe symptoms, the ventilation, intubation, and extracorporeal membrane oxygenation called ECMO is used. And nowadays, we are collecting patients' blood who have recovered and have antibodies, and we are giving it to patients who are sick. It's called convalescent plasma. And all these treatment are still evolving, and unless we do multi-center, double-blind, randomized controlled trial, we cannot really say which one will be more effective. So we still have to see, but if we can find out from our Ayurvedic or plants immunomodulators also who is at most risk, and is there a way we can prevent a storm before it happens? Can preemptive strategies and therapies be successful? Once a storm happens, can we treat it effectively with mediator blockers or other medications that interfere with the cytokine storm pathway? So all these are important questions, and we are still waiting. And I would end my talk there and take any questions. And I thank all the organizers again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Avinash Gupta, for such a nice and informative presentation. Now I would like to request Dr. Sushma Dasguru, the organizing secretary, to kindly introduce Dr. S.K. Agrawal, our next speaker, to all the participants. Over to Dr. Sushma Dasguru.
Thanks, Dr. Isha Purak. Good afternoon to everyone. Today I have a task to introduce someone who is already known to most of you. This is a great opportunity and a big privilege for me to have been given this responsibility. I hope to do it with best of my ability. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us the very well-known, highly talented and renowned herbal practitioner Dr. Suresh Kumar Agrawal of Amrita Family Healthcare Center, Ranchi. A medical graduate of RMC's 1977 batch, Dr. Agrawal started his professional career with the Department of Neurosurgery before pursuing his house surgeonship at Calcutta and later serving as a medical officer at Indo-Tibet Border Police for a period of 1 year. Currently, he is deeply involved into practicing family health care using medicinal plant products. Besides writing healthcare-related articles for newspaper and magazines, Dr. Agrawal is actively involved as a resource person with various institutes, NGOs, and also extends his valuable help to biotechnology students for their undergraduate and postgraduate projects. During COVID-19 lockdown, Dr. Agrawal actively helped needy people and distributed herbal products of Tinospora, aloe vera, etc. A die-hard campaigner of medicinal plants, Dr. Agarwal is determined to pursue his mission of making Ranchi a herbal city. I invite Dr. Agarwal to share his experience with us. Let us join our hands to give a loud applause to welcome Dr. Agarwal. Please, sir.
The topic today which is given to me is plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19 pandemic. This provides an opportunity for better clinical outcome. I'm a surgeon basically. I don't do surgery anymore. And my journey started with the plants as if I'm visiting a forest. Way back when I was a medical student, I purchased my first medicinal plant book in 1975. And then when I went to Calcutta for my internship, somebody gifted me another book in Bengali known as Chiranjeevi Banaushadhi, which is a description of 1300 plants and its traditional uses. My interest in plants grew gradually, and when I joined my MS surgery in 1987, for some reason or other, I don't know why, I chose a subject, evaluation of cell-mediated immunity in cancer patients. Way back in 1987, my guide, Dr. Ghanshyam Das, was surprised. He said, "You will work on immunology in surgery?" I said, "Yes. The future of our medicine lies in immunology." When I was doing my literature review for my MS thesis, I found that the immune system is disturbed in cancers, in infections, in allergies, in autoimmune disorders, and all the diseases. And in the meanwhile, I was interacting with one of the good Vaidyas who was my friend, Dr. Ramakant Misra, who later on migrated to Los Angeles, and he expired there a couple of years back. He used to tell me about the concept of Ojas, Vyadhichmatva, very akin to immunology, immune system, very akin to immune system, and this gave some ideas to me. Maybe some plants have effects on immune system. I was doing my cell-mediated immunity lab work in local veterinary college. I requested whether Dr. B.K. Tiwari, who was helping me in evaluation of quantification of T lymphocytes in the blood, it was a very long laboratory protocol, and by the time my interaction with the R.K. Misra gave me an idea that some plants might have immunomodulatory properties. So I requested Dr. B.K. Tiwari that why not we study immunomodulatory effects of some plants. It was a very virgin subject. A good student, Prashant Subuddhi, came from Odisha to obtain his MBSc, Masters in Veterinary Science. And I prepared the synopsis and gave him to study effects of 4 medicinal plants, Centrella asiatica, Phyllanthus amaras, Tanospora cordifolia, and Vigna radiata, which is moon. And to our surprise, when the results started coming, the lab work, we basically studied phagocytic functions and the effects on polymorphs and macrophages of these plants. The results were surprising, and Dr. Prashant Subuddhi, he is now heading the Department of Microbiology in Mizoram Veterinary College. He was so sincere and so committed to the subject, it took 5 years instead of 2 years for his postgraduate studies. His work was followed by 2 more works in the veterinary college, immunomodulation by herbamineral sources, and studies on comparative immunomodulatory effects of herbamineral compound and levamisole in chickens. All these results gradually convinced me, and by that time there were a couple of more publications in the country and elsewhere, that plants have immunomodulatory properties. And for the last 25 years, I'm treating microbial infections, autoimmune disorders, allergies, asthmas, and urticarias, all the diseases where there is some or other implication of immune system. And I'm obtaining some of the plants which are reported to have immunomodulatory properties, formulating drugs and giving it to my patients. Many of the results are very surprising, especially in autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, eczema, vitiligo. In chronic bacterial infections and fungal infections also, I find that there is a definite and significant therapeutic improvement when I use either my own preparation made of mainly of herbs, sometimes a metallic drug known as zinc, which is a zinc salt. When COVID started in March in India, I studied its immunopathology, and I found that it's the immune system which matters to protect, and the clinical course is controlled by the immune reactions. I studied the cytokine storm, and I found that it's the pro-inflammatory cytokines like TNF, IL-6, which causes the havoc, because that is the exaggerated reaction of the macrophages. I studied the symptomatology, and then I theorized that we can divide the COVID patients of the population into 5 different categories: unexposed or asymptomatic patients, where the preventive measures should be good enough, like social distancing, like use of mask, etc. There is another group who have come in contact with the COVID positive patients but are still asymptomatic. For them, antivirals and immunomodulators, the safe plant immunomodulators and antivirals will suffice. There are some patients which are mild symptomatic positive or moderate positive. For them, antivirals, immunomodulators, anti-inflammatory to prevent the cytokine storm, and things to improve respiratory function will be necessary. In severe cases, of course, we have to provide the ventilator, the respiratory support, along with modern antivirals, fluvenafil and whatever drugs are being used, steroids, HCQS. And I am of opinion that along with these measures, if we use herbamineral antivirals and immunomodulators or anti-inflammatory, that would be much better. And based on these concepts, I prepared a list of plants which have these therapeutic properties. Endographis paniculata, this is Kalmeg. There are a number of reports, more than 200 reports published, that Endographis paniculata, Kalmeg, which is available in Jharkhand, in Madhya Pradesh, and many parts of the country, and other countries also like China, and there are extensive studies on antiviral properties and immunomodulatory properties, and people have found that this plant, the scientists have found that this plant has antiviral properties at least in 8 different viruses, which includes HIV, which includes hepatitis B. So, it is anti-inflammatory also. The next plant is, of course, which is very talked about all over the country, is Tinospora provifolia, or known as Giloy. My work is mainly focused on Giloy, and I use this plant as an immunomodulator, anti-inflammatory in various different diseases, in various combinations. Azadirachta indica neem, which is again antiviral and immunomodulatory. Curcuma longa haldi, piper longa, और लॉन्ग पेपर जिसको हम बोलते हैं पिपरी, ऑक्सीमम सैंक्टम तुलसी, अगोतोआ वासिका. Here I will mention this plant particularly. Agotoa vasica is known as vasak in Hindi. This synthetic compound known as bromhexine, which is mucolytic. In Ayurveda, it was well known that this is one of the best plant for various kinds of respiratory problems, all kinds of cough, and I use it extensively for that purpose. There are some published reports which says that it works on the alveolar macrophage. So that justifies its use in COVID-19. Vidania somniferia, ashwagandha, Glycyrrhiza glabra, or Yashti Madhu or Muleti. Now this is a list of comprehensive plants which are very rational, which have antiviral as well as immunomodulatory properties, and all of them rather have anti-inflammatory properties, and some of them like Amrita, Neem, Tulsi, Haldi and Yashti Madhu, they improve the respiratory function also. Many of them are antibiotic. So a combination of these herbs will not only provide the immune support, they will definitely lessen or retard the viral multiplication and as well as help in controlling the symptoms. Of course, in very severe cases, we have to take resorts of steroids or ventilators or antivirals, and everybody is doing that. The results are known to all. I think plant immunomodulators provides a wonderful opportunity in COVID-19 to do lots of clinical work. Moreover, all these plants I am using in my and many people, thousands of people are using, lakhs of people are using these plants for centuries. There are no toxic effects. Many of the things are edible like tulsi, haldi, neem, amrita. They form a part of our diet. So there is no harm, I think, in taking a chance in using these in different categories of COVID patients. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. S.K. Agarwal, for delivering an informative lecture. Sir, you are an MBBS doctor and a surgeon, but you switched over to Ayurvedic system of treatment and promoting plants for treatment of different types of ailments. It's wonderful, sir. Now the time is up, so we are not able to do interaction session. I kindly request Professor Ichha Purak to conclude the lectures of second session. Over to Professor Purak.
Thanks, Dr. Anita, for providing me the opportunity to conclude the second session of this national webinar on plants as immunomodulators in COVID-19 pandemic, which is being organized by Department of Botany, Ranchi Women's College, Ranchi, in collaboration with Society for Plant Research, Vegetas. In this second session of national webinar, we were fortunate to have with us Dr. Avinash Gupta, Chief Cardiologist from Monmouth Medical Center, Southern Campus, New Jersey, USA. Although he migrated to USA in 1986, he is deeply linked to India, especially Ranchi, his birthplace, from where he completed his MBBS from RIMS Ranchi in 1978. Dr. Gupta shared valuable information about COVID-19, its outbreak and spread, mode of transmission by human to human contact, symptoms of corona, incubation period, preventive measures to be taken to avoid infection as social distancing, using mask to cover nose and mouth, avoid touching infected surface, mouth, nose and eyes, frequent washing of hands and sanitizations of touchable surfaces, all recommendations made by Ayush Ministry of India. He also emphasized that prevention is better than cure, so one should try to boost self-immunity by having good food, good sleep, yoga and exercise, as this virus induces respiratory syndrome and affects lung. He also made participants aware that about 80% of infected persons are recovered by proper treatment in few days. Chances of fatality are less. One should not be panicked. In severe cases, lungs are affected by blood clotting. Strokes may take place and patients are shifted to ICU and ventilators are required for oxygen demand. Thank you, Dr. Avinash Gupta, for such an informative and complete lecture delivered and for accepting our request in spite of your busy schedule. You have answered almost all questions prevalent in minds of common people related with COVID-19 and its spread as pandemic. The second speaker in this session was very well known herbal practitioner Dr. S.K. Agrawala, who completed his MBBS in 1977 from RIMS, is involved in treating patients by using herbal products since last 25 years at his clinic Amrita Family Health Center, Lalpur, Ranchi. He has long journey with literature concerned with plants as immunomodulators, having his own vast collection of books and e-library also. During his presentation, he mentioned immunomodulatory and antiviral properties of some plants which he commonly uses for treating his patients as Andrographis paniculata, Kalmeg, Tinospora cordifolia, Giloy or Amrita, Azadirachta indica, Neem, Vithamia somnifera, Ashwagandha, Curcuma longa, turmeric or haldi, Ocimum sanctum, Tulsi or basil, Piper longum, Pipli, Athatoda vasica, Bacchus, and Glycyrrhiza glabra, Muletti, along with some bhasm of zinc. He emphasized that as these plants are commonly used in our kitchen in daily routine and does not cause any significant side effect, combination of these can be taken as drug to prevent infection and to cure and fight with corona and other viral diseases. Thank you, Dr. S.K. Agrawala, for such lively and very practical information rendered. As we are approaching towards the end of this event, I would like to request and invite the coordinator of this national webinar, Dr. Smita Linda, to kindly propose vote of thanks. Over to Dr. Smita.
It is an honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's webinar. At the very onset, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Vice Chancellor of Ranchi University, Professor Ramesh Kumar Pandey, and Honorable Principal Professor Manju Sinha for giving us this opportunity to organize this webinar under their patronship. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers for this evening, Professor S.K. Bhatnagar, Professor Om Prakash Rathod, Dr. Avinash Gupta and Dr. S.K. Agarwal for your very informative lectures which were very pertinent to this present time of pandemic where there is distress all over. Thank you for helping us to unveil the opportunities that God has bestowed upon us in the form of plants with medicinal properties which help us to enhance our immunity. I thank all the speakers for showing us a ray of hope in this situation of uncertainty and distress. I thank the members of the organizing committee, Professor Icha Purak, the convener, our co-convener, Dr. Anita Mehta, and the organizing secretaries, Dr. Sushma Das Guru and Dr. Shalini Mehta, for your constant support till the end. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants from different parts of the country. It was an honor to have you with us. Thank you for your patient listening till the end. I would like to thank each one of you for your participation in this webinar. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.